real estate agents. My name is Tiffany Fortenberry and I'm one of the owners at Prestige Title of Brevard. We're proud to be the sponsor of the Rockstar Real Estate Series for the second year in a row. As a family-owned and operated business, we are dedicated to providing service you can trust through every aspect of your transaction. We thank you for your business over the last 16 years and we look forward to continuing to serve our Brevard County Realtors.
So this is nerve-wracking talking about Mitch. So I've known Mitch for 18 years, and I started working with Mitch 18 years ago in his brokerage. And at that time, there was only 6 agents, and we grew that brokerage to 120. We opened up 3 branch offices, and during that time, one of the topics that Mitch is going to talk about today is lead generation, lead nurturing, lead conversion. So Mitch devised a CRM system. We had inside sales agents, and he refined it over and over again to make it hugely successful. So he's actually gone around the nation teaching lead conversion, and for those of you that don't know, he was known at one point, I don't know if that's still relevant, as the grandfather of internet lead conversion. So pretty cool. Mitch's middle name is entrepreneur. He's owned I think 23, 24 businesses. He owned the first online dating business and the third paintball business in all of the US. So he's got some records there. And we're excited to hear from him today. Mitch currently has an organization of 2,000 agents nationwide and in 7 countries. And his main goal for his agents is success. And he really comes from contribution. And if any of you know Mitch, you know that he is a very sincere, a very giving person. His ultimate goal is our agent's success and any agent that he encounters. So let's hear it from Mitch. I hope you enjoy this class today. Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Pat. All right. You all know I pay her, right? So before I start, I just have to, I always watch this thing here. So I want you to notice something. Look how low my speakers are. You know why they're so low? Because that's as high as I could reach. As I was putting them up, like, they should be higher. I'm like, no, it's heavy. They're like 50 pounds each, which isn't a lot of weight when you're 28, but at 62, it's a lot heavier. So anyway, thanks for coming today. I drink a lot of water. I have to stay hydrated because that's the rules. So we get a lot of stuff to go through today. I'm going to try to get through everything. We're going to talk a little bit about sales, just basic sales, because I think it's important to understand that. My 2-day sales strategy, why agents fail, which is honestly one of my favorite subjects, because I think some people will usually see something in themselves in that conversation. How to generate leads, of course. I got 34 ways to generate leads, which my goal of that is for you to pick 1 or 2 to implement. Don't try to implement 34. And then we're going to end with how to master open houses, because I know open houses are a great thing now. And finally, your sphere of influence. So we're going to go through all this stuff. I'll give you a quick background on me as far as real estate. Been in real estate for 22 years coming in September, which blows my mind. I haven't been able to stay married for 22 years, so it's pretty cool. I sold 36 homes my first year. I didn't know anybody in Brevard County when I got my license. As Pat said, I owned an online dating service. I was on the road 25 days a month, and even though I lived here for 2 years, I literally didn't know anybody, except for my girlfriend, who's now my wife, and she lived with me, so therefore she wasn't buying anything. I did try to sell her house, but she wouldn't bite. And my second year, I sold 50 homes. My third year, I sold 80 homes. My fourth year, I sold 80 homes. And then I started my brokerage in 2005 and ran that for 13 years. In 2017, so 12 years. 17, we merged with EXP, and now we've got 2,200 agents in 49 states and 7 countries. So it's been a pretty cool life the last 22 years. The best part is the amount of lives you can affect. And Pat said that, but it truly is. And people always think there's ulterior motives to everything. I just don't. I don't care about anything except helping people. I think you've been put on this earth to do really just a couple things. One, raise your kids good. I have a slogan, keep them alive till they're 25, and my kids are in their 40s, so we did that. Now we're trying to keep our grandkids alive till they're 25. and affect people's lives. So that's why we're doing these Real Estate Rockstar series. We don't really have any other reason to do this. I'll tell you the quick story behind it because it's kind of funny. It'll be October, I think, October 2 years ago. Pat and I were in the middle of a deal. We're working with a buyer, and the inventory's been tight for a long time, and honestly, it just sucked. I hated it. I was like, you know what, Pat? I don't like this anymore. She goes, I don't like it either. I go, I quit. She goes, well, I quit. I go, well, now what are we going to do? So we came up with this, and this is why we're doing this stuff. All right, so just a quick show of hands, because I always like to gauge the room. How many people have had the license less than a year? Less than 3 years? Less than 100 years? With Steve, you're right around there, right? Oh yeah, and John too. John's 120 years, yeah. You can tell by the way he looks, yeah. And that's why I look like this. I'm actually only 27 years old. I just look like crap for real estate for 22 years. All right, so let's talk about sales. So so again, being an entrepreneur, like the first day, I'm not going to get into this. I'm going to do a whole other class on running a business. We just did this in my office the other day. It was really good. In fact, I'm doing it Thursday online for a bunch of people. But you have to run a business, and most realtors don't run a business. They run a reactionary job, meaning they're waiting for the phone to ring. Like, how many people do $1 gazillion in business? Some of you do. I know Steve does. I know some people do here. But if you're doing a lot of business, what happens is I find a lot of people are doing a lot of business. They're on a hamster wheel, and there's no way out. And you're literally just going. When I was selling 80 homes a year, it was 80 hours a week, and I was just killing myself. And I didn't have anybody teach me what I'm going to teach you guys today to be more efficient. So the first thing I had to learn was listening. If you know me, you know I listen really bad. My wife and I will be having a conversation. I'll be looking at her, and she'll be talking away, and she goes, you're not listening to anything I'm saying. She knows me too well. Luckily, my consumers didn't know that. My customers never knew I wasn't really listening. But I'm the guy that answers the question when you've already said 3 words, and I'm like, oh yeah, da, 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 da. And I talk really fast. If you haven't noticed, I'm from Boston, and we still pa-ka-ka. In fact, if you're bored, on August 31st, I'm having a lifelong dream happen. You're all welcome to come because I can invite people. I'm playing a baseball game at Fenway Park. So if you're bored and you want to come watch me play baseball, there's nothing better than watching a 62-year-old guy trying to make it to first base. Anyways, so listening was my hardest thing. So in this business, we find that most people are just tour guides. And by the way, I'm not condemning people when I'm talking about stuff like this. I'm just seeing what I've seen over the last 22 years. Most people walk in and go, and here's the kitchen, and look at the beautiful bathroom, and blah, 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 blah. And that's what they hear, by the way, blah, 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 blah. And what I learned early on, if I don't pay attention to what they're saying, which is really hard for me, I'm gonna struggle in being really good at this job. And I've never been not good at everything I've done. Well, hair growth, I've been really bad at. But the whole key was, how do you not be a tour guide? How do you make your day 2 days instead of 20 days of showing people property? So the first thing I would do, well, first of all, let me go over how I listen, because that's really important. So I will sit there and I'll talk to Evan here, and Evan will ask me a question, and I'll wait for the voice to stop. And this is true, by the way. I'll wait. So if you ever talk to me, this is what I'm doing. I'm waiting for the voice to talk, because I already know the answers to what I'm going to say ahead of it. But if I interrupt them, I'm rude, right? And which I've learned by being called rude many times in my life. And so I'm waiting for Evan's voice to talk, and then as soon as I hear the stop, in my brain I'm counting 1, 2, 3, and then I answer. Now that may sound really simple and stupid, but who's ADD? Come on. Right? Have you guys seen the new thing coming out? I've seen recently. It's those kids that got the report card that said talks too much in class. Where did they become? They all became realtors, right? I love that. Because that is every report card I got all the way up to like barely graduated high school where I talked too much in class because I couldn't shut up. So I've always been like that. So that's why I do public speaking around the country, because I just don't like to shut up. So anyway, but that really works in taking a pause and really trying to listen to what the person's saying. So what it's done for me, and I've been doing this way before real estate, by the way, what it did, it made me a better listener. Not with my wife, but with everybody else. Because that way you're not talking over the customer, right? Because that's what we do, talk over the customer. I try to pay attention. And here's the most important part, applying this to real estate. When I show a house, and I've sold I've sold about 1,000 homes, is I will take a pad of paper, walk behind them and say, I'm not going to show you where the kitchen is, the bathroom is, and all the other stuff. I'm going to read you the stats, and I'm going to listen to the two of you talk about what you're looking for. Because I really need to understand. And for instance, if they're looking for if they say we don't have enough furniture to fill up a family room and a living room, right? then I know we got to look for a great room. If they say I really want like a master shower and separate master bathtub, then I know I'm looking for a house after 1990. I know that wood floors show better than tile, real wood floors show better than tile, and tile shows better than carpet. So all those things are all going in my brain when I'm talking to people. I'm not really talking to them, hard to believe. I'm not really talking to them when I'm looking at property, except cracking a couple of jokes here and there. And I'm really just trying to get down on paper what they're looking for. And there's a reason for all this, which we'll go into in a minute. As soon as I'm done showing property, this is one of my pet peeves for I've had with some of my realtors over the years. They'll go show 4 houses, then they go to the beach for the day. Drives me crazy. Show property, then immediately go, while everything's fresh in your brain, go back and refine what you're looking for. Number one complaint about realtors, and you guys have probably heard this, is I did all the work. Consumers say that all the time because they're on Zillow, Realtor.com. And remember, reactionary realtors, they send you a list of properties, you go, okay, I'll show you those properties. And that's real estate. Where I would get a list of properties from them, maybe they send me 8 or 10 or 12 properties, I would eliminate almost more than half of their properties, and I would find better properties for them. Because I just spent days looking at stuff. We know what they just looked at. We didn't like them, right? And I want to send them the properties I think are better for them than what they think. All right? And the most important part of our business is educating your buyers. How many people actually sit down and educate your buyer exactly how you work? It's super important, and most people bypass this part of their business. So I'll give you a quick story about this. The house that my wife and I live in now, my wife was a corporate girl. She worked for Raytheon, she worked for RCA, she worked for the school board, but corporate. When she worked for GE and Raytheon, those companies, she had, the salespeople got cars, right? The salespeople got salary plus bonuses. And when we were getting our licenses together, although she didn't get it 22 years ago, she just got it a couple years ago, we were talking about that, and the house that we live in now, she was actually working with a realtor for a year. And then she went to an open house. Anybody ever have this happen? And they get the phone call on Monday to the realtor, hey, guess what? We bought a house. And the realtor's like, that's awesome, asshole. And that's really, I mean, what happens, because most people, we assume they know how we get paid, but they don't. And she said that when we learned this, I knew it was that, but she didn't know. When we learned this, she told me that story, that she had no idea that the realtor got paid by commission. So tell people. So we educate people. Here's my blurb. I'll give you really quickly. I'm going to give you 150% in finding your home. I'm really, really good at it. Now, if you're new to this business, just still say that, and that gives them the confidence that you're really good at it. So I just tell people I'm really, really good at it. I'm going to give you 150% in finding your home. I'm really, really good at it, but I do have some rules. I go, I'm going to be loyal to you as a customer, but I expect you to be loyal to me too. If you, for some reason, don't like me or you want to fire me, do it instantly. Don't make me go showing you lots of houses and then say, oh, we don't want to work with you. By the way, I only got fired once. I fired a few agents, a few people, because, consumers can be really evil, especially, who's from New York, besides John? You know how I feel about you guys, sorry. It's nothing personal. Yeah, I've grown to be more tolerant. Anyway, in July of 2004, I almost died. And I just got married that March. My daughter had just got married that June. And when I almost died, I actually sat there in the hospital and go, what am I doing? I was working 80 hours a week, 7 days a week, and I'm like, what am I doing? I got to take more control of my business. So when I was talking to my customer, I said, look, you have me from Monday through Saturday, 8 to 8. I'm not going to respond to you before 8, and I'm not going to respond to you after 8. And, hey, Howard, nice to see you, buddy. And I don't work Sundays, that's my family day. If you have a problem with that, I'm not the right realtor. By the way, by setting those boundaries, I became the professional instead of the abused. How many people have been abused by their customers? You all have. If you sold a house, you've been abused, right? Especially if they're from New York, right? Come on, be honest. So it's really important to set the stage. So then I go a little more deeper. I'll talk about new construction. If you're remotely interested in new construction, we need to talk about that. I can't represent you if I don't take you to the new construction places. If they're remotely interested, we're going to show them every place that's available in their price range. Actually a little higher, because people going to new construction generally spend about $50,000 more than they were going to spend as their max for some reason. We talk about for sale by owners. You're going to drive by, you're going to see a for sale by owner. They will all work with realtors. They just don't want to list with one. They don't want to pay the full commission. So again, the worst transactions we see, and if you've done these, you know that, are transactions that for sale by owners. There's always lawsuits. That's the biggest lawsuit in real estate is against for sale by owners. Same thing in listing signs. If you drive by a listing sign, don't call the realtor, they represent the seller, call me, and I'll make sure, if for some reason I can't do it, I will make sure I have somebody else show it to you. Especially today, you need to have a partner. In a partner meeting, just someone you can say, hey, can you show this property to me? I can't. Because right now, homes are still selling really quick, right? Multiple offers on good properties. And then we talk about open houses. You're gonna go through open houses. I'm not gonna be with you 24/7. Here's a bunch of my cards. When you walk in the door, the first thing I want you to say is, I'm working with Mitch. And then they'll leave you alone. So I literally didn't lose any customers. Nobody cared about Sundays. And by the way, did I ever never work a Sunday again? I worked a few. They're at the time $500,000 or more for a sale. I'm gonna work a Sunday. But I haven't worked a Sunday now in 15 years. Something like that. In fact, I don't work weekends anymore. But this is so important to take the steps of educating your buyer because they don't know and you're pretending like they know and then you get all upset when they don't do what they're supposed to do.
Do you have to sign buyers and breakers?
So the question was, do I have them sign a buyer's brokerage agreement? The only time I don't, the answer is no, because I'm so awesome that nobody ever wants to leave me. But I will tell you what, who's doing internet leads? If you're doing internet leads and they want you to even go look at a house and take a picture, sign a buyer brokerage agreement. So I would not work, not just the internet, I would not work an out-of-area lead without getting a buyer brokerage agreement signed. Because they're talking to 5 other people. Right? You're not the only one. We're going to do a class on that pretty shortly on buyer brokerage. We talked about that yesterday. But everybody get this? Educate your buyers. So the other thing, when you're selling 80 homes a year, you have to be very strategic in how you show property. And this is so important. Remember, I want you to become proactive realtor. If you get nothing out of today, it's how do you go from a proactive realtor to a reactive realtor? I'm sorry. That's how good I am. Reactive to proactive. You know what I meant. Yeah. I'm a little dyslexic in words. So here's my way I do it. By the way, I don't actually follow my slides, so I might not say what's on there. My first day is my learning day. I'm going to go around and I'm going to learn what these people want. Remember I said I'm going to sit there and pay attention. I'm going to refine the search. And the next day, I'm going to show property, and I'm going to use 8 homes and 8 homes. That's what we used to show a lot. Now it's a lot harder because there's not that many. It might be 4 and 4, but either way, the theory is the same. I would show the house I knew they would pick because I did a great job the first day. I knew they would pick second to last, always. Now, if I was in Merritt Island showing property and another property was in Palm Bay and I had to go back to Merritt Island to show another property, I didn't care where I had to drive. I would just tell the customer that's the only place I could get my, we always have a senior citizen lost somewhere. So I always show the house second to last. And then on the last house, so I'm going to 8 the first day, 8 the second day, the 7th house is the house I know they're going to buy. And I would make stupid jokes like, nah, I'm not going to let you in. I know this is the one. And you know the buying signal is always the wife, 90% of the time, and her eyes get big and she smiles because they're sick of looking at friggin' houses. Because we showed them 16, they've looked at 6,000 online, right? So they're sick of it. And then the final house, the 8th house, is the confirmation. And this is my only salesy line I ever say to customers. We've looked at a lot of homes the last couple of days, and the last one really seemed to stick out. Do you want to go take a second look? 80%. And I tracked everything. 80% of the consumers will go take a look. If you don't ask for the sale, what do you get? Nothing. You got to ask, right? And while we're in that house looking at it for a second time, and sometimes that meant driving from Merritt Island to Palm Bay, back to Merritt Island, back to Palm Bay. It didn't matter because I want to only work 2 days with a customer. Right, now, did that work in every single customer? No. No, I had Cesar, one of my favorite customers. I had a little short dentist, makes me feel tall. Not too many people, my wife makes me feel tall, she's 4'9". That's why I married her, she fit, walked around. But anyway, so he was 50 homes. We made the mistake of looking at brand new homes first, right? Which you do, because that's what he wanted, but then every house he measured was based on that brand new home. So I could literally had a lot of trouble, and what did we end up doing? Buying the brand new home, right? 50 homes later. I probably did that 2 or 3 times before I just would say no. I had one lady call me once, in fact, Debbie and Joanne, I think you guys helped her. She gave me a list of I think it was 72 homes to look at on a Saturday. And I called her back, I go, pick 8. She goes, no, I want to look at all these homes. I go, A, there's not enough hours in a weekend to do that, and B, I'm not doing it, find another realtor. And then I pawned her off on Debbie and Joanne. Remember that, Joanne? You remember her? Yeah. She was little, so you know the theory about little people, right? You don't screw with little people because they're scary, right? This girl was like the size of my wife. She was scary. And anyways, but Joanne and Debbie did a great job. But I remember Debbie calling me up. I think she was crying. She's like, she's so mean. She was. So anyways, does this make sense? This saves so much more time because you're controlling the destination. You're controlling the whole path. If you're running around reactive to every time they make a phone call, you're not doing a good job. Now, is it a little more challenging in this market? Absolutely. There's no question it's a little more challenging, but it's still the right way to do it. Okay. Time blocking. So it's really important. My voice cracked there. I think I'm going through puberty. It's really important that you have a plan. How many of you have actually written a business plan for real estate? Couple? That's actually more than normal. I just did a class out in San Diego, and we had about 80 people, and not one person had ever done a business plan. It's a business. How many people do you think you run a business or you have a job? Who has a business? Who has a job? Come on, you know you're full of it, right? I've opened 23 companies in my life. Every single one had a business plan. And I'm not talking about this elaborate business plan. When I was going public with the online dating service, we had a 1,500-page business plan that cost me $50,000. I'm not talking about that. My business plan for real estate when I started was two pages. Right? You just need some direction. What are my goals and how am I going to get there? But you have to have a plan, but you also have to do that on a daily basis. So what I would do every single day, now my weeks are booked out. I do this once a week because my weeks are booked out a week ahead. But I would spend the night before looking at my schedule for the day and organizing it based on the things I didn't want to do, right? And so the theory behind that, it works for me by the way, is to do the things you don't like first thing in the morning. Because what happens after you've done a few things? You're like, I'll do it the next day. You don't do it. But here's the other thing, the psychological part. When you beat up something first thing in the morning, right? I beat my dog first thing in the morning every day, it's great. When you beat something every morning, no I don't, my dog beats me. You conquered something really difficult. It's a great way to start your day. Where if you start out the easy things, it's not as good. So for me to do that, I had to be really, especially these days, if you look at my schedule, it's late. Here's my routine every single day, and you should have a routine. So I wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock. Me and my dog hang out for an hour. We watch some catch up on our crime shows. We love our crime shows, and she loves them. She talks to me all about them. And have my cup of tea, and then I take her on a walk, and we come back, and I take my shower. I take cold showers. Anybody into cold showers? Right, if you haven't done cold showers, they are amazing. I do my hot shower and shave my whole thing, and then I turn the cold shower on and go, because it's hell. And one thing I know, cold showers in Florida, not so bad. I did a cold shower in Madison, Wisconsin recently. It's really bad. I did one in Seattle and Bellingham, Washington last month. Really bad, cold. Ours is like 65 degrees and I'm still cold. So I get alert, and then I drive to work, listening to comedy the entire way. This is every single day, by the way. I listen to comedy all the way. It's a 30-minute drive from my Merritt Allen house to my Suntree office, and listen to comedy. I'm that guy, laughing his head off in his car, looks like a fool. That's me. And I get to the office. I play my guitar for 30 minutes. I used to play for 15, but I've upped it to 30 minutes. That's my meditation. Who meditates? So I can't meditate like this because I think about all the crap I have to do. I don't understand that whole part. So one of my coaches told me, if you play guitar for 30 minutes, what do you think about? I go, I think about my guitar. He goes, that's meditation. So you think about everything about what else you have to do. And then I'm working on a couple new books, so I write for 15 minutes a day, and then at 9 o'clock my day starts, 9 to 10, 10 to 11, 11 to 12. Everything's in there. Even if I have family time I have to do, I block it in there. So time blocking organizes you enough to be, again, professional and proactive. Projects, I want to talk about this real quick. So one of the things we're going to talk about in a little bit is your sphere of influence. And as much as I've taught this to thousands of people, very few actually implement. And because it's a project. And why do people not do projects? Because they're overwhelming, right? Who's been overwhelmed before? Everybody's been overwhelmed, right? So when I write a book, people ask me, Mitch, how'd you write 2 books when you're working 80 hours a week, 100 hours a week with the brokerage? Because I write 15 minutes a day. It takes me 2 hours to finish, 2 years to finish a book. I'm working on a new one now, but it'll take me 2 years before I release that book. It's called The Psychology of a Realtor. I can't wait because it's going to be, I'm going to have to quit the business to get it to write, but It's going to be funny stuff. But it's all about managing your time properly in segments so you can accomplish these goals. So when you break a project down to 15-minute increments or 30-minute increments, not a big deal. You don't get overwhelmed. All right. So I don't do this next part to be negative, but you might identify yourself with some of these things. And if you do, it's okay. It's just sometimes you need to see it or hear it to realize you're not doing a good job with it. So first of all, lack of strategy. You just heard my 2-day sales strategy. When I had the internet stuff going up, and Pat was the godfather of lead conversion, not grandfather, thanks. But we did that. We're the first people to use inside salespeople for lead conversion. So it's always about being strategic in how we sell more homes. All right? Lack of work ethic. We did a study, I don't know, 15 years ago, maybe longer, I don't know. I think I only had 20 agents back then. And we did a study. We had everybody track every minute of every day for 7 days. And by the way, I urge you all to do this. Because you sometimes, everybody thinks, how many people here work full-time? Just work full-time. Who's full-time realtor? Everybody, right? But are you really? That's the question. So we did the study, and our best agents work 3.5 hours a day. Our average agents work between 1 to 2 hours a day. Oops, sorry. Let's see if there's anybody important. Oh, hey, what's going on? Sorry. It's hard for me to come up here and just not do stupid jokes the whole time. But anyway, so it's really important that you really look at what you're doing every day. And when you time block, by the way, it helps you do that because you'll end up working better and more strategic and more. The challenge with real estate, I think, is there's a lot of challenges. One, the barrier to entry. What's it cost to be a realtor? $1,500. Although I said that in California, and one girl said, "Well, I got my Groupon for $49. I became a realtor." $49. But you go away for, like, my wife's birthday's in a couple of weeks, and I'm surprising her for a weekend away. She doesn't know, and it's a lot more than $1,500 to wait $1 to go away for a weekend, right? It just is, and we have $1,500 to get in. So you have to have a mindset in this business that you spend $250,000 to start this business. What would you do different if you look at your business today? What would you do different if you invested $250,000 to be a realtor? Anybody get an answer? I will tell you the answer. Everything. Everything. You'd be up at 4 o'clock in the morning, 5 o'clock in the morning. You'd be finishing at 8 o'clock at night. You'd be on the phone calling every single person you personally know so you can try to sell a house. Everything that you should be doing today, you'd be doing. But because there's no financial loss really to do it, not doing it, you don't do it. I'm not saying you specifically. I know you guys are awesome, but most people. Not understanding how to deliver a message. This is really, really cool. It's so important to understand how to talk, which I struggle with if you haven't noticed. So I could say something one way to Evan, and I don't know, I'm going to pick it. You're in the front row, it happens, right? I'll make fun of Kate. We'll make fun of Kate. But I could say something to Kate in one way, and Evan could say it in another way, and she's going to get 2 different meanings, right? What's that matter is not how they made you, what they said to you, it's how you made them feel. You all heard that, right? So the thing to think about, and I'll give you a story behind it. We had an agent once, and we did a lot of internet leads, so there were a lot of people that were coming down from New York and New England and California, and then they not buy, then they go back up to New England, sell their property, and come back down. But occasionally, a lot, they would say, I didn't believe these homes are so cheap. Back then, the average home was about $175 when the story took place. And in Long Island, they were about $1 million at the time, right? So there's one of my agents who's from France, very direct, sweetheart, but very direct. I'm only showing you 3 houses because you're not buying. How'd that make them feel? Wicked awesome, right? And so and by the way, the only reason why I know this is because a realtor that I trained called me and told me the story that weekend. So anyways, the person I trained did exactly what I taught them to do, and they bought a house that weekend. Now, how I would have said it, because I don't want to show them more than a few homes either, but how I would have said that is, I know this is the first time to the area, and what we're going to do is the first day we're going to go drive around Brevard County. I'm going to show you some homes, but we're going to drive around Brevard County because we have to figure out what part of Brevard that you like. And then when I'm with them, I'm going to be able to gauge them if they're going to buy. Like, I would know after a couple of hours if they're actually going to buy now because they're going to go, whoa, I didn't know we were going to be able to buy the house right now with this price point. So she lost them immediately. I would have at least gotten them to the first day. and I would have sold them a house. So how you say things is really, really important. Another one was I had a friend of mine call me, and he's really, really rich. It's really funny. He's really, really rich. And hey, my aunt and uncle buying a property. They're in their 70s, and they're looking for a condo. And will you help them? And you got to help them personally, Mitch, because at the time I had a brokerage and all this stuff. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm thinking the oceanfront. $500,000, $1 million, yes. So I meet with them in my office like I always do, doing a buyer presentation. And yeah, so we don't want to spend more than $60,000. I'm like, shit. And I'm stuck with them now because I couldn't do anything. So here's what I did. This is off the cuff. So I've learned lessons instantly sometimes. Is I said, what I really want to do is I want to print out all the complexes in the county that have properties in that price point, because there's not a lot. And there's a good chance you're not going to like most of the properties. Instead of having you going up and down stairs and elevators and stuff all day long, let's find the complex that you like first. So here's a list of all the complexes. Go drive around, I'll meet you back here at 2. And they go, that's great. They came back at 2 and they're like, you were so right. I showed one condo, sold them one condo. So so I still made my $1,500 an hour, which is what I wanted to make back then, right? And I didn't, it wasn't a big deal. Lack of preparation. I cannot tell you how many agents have run through the door. I got to print out some comps. I'm like, what's going on? They go, well, I got a listing appointment in 15 minutes. I got to figure out what the price is. Be prepared. Don't be one of those people. Just like know your stuff, know the house, know everything. Same with buyers. These days with social media, you can literally go on social media and learn a whole lot about your buyers before you even meet with them. And so you'll know a little bit what you like, and the conversation is a lot easier. Unprofessional. So I've recently stopped wearing suits. First time in my entire adult life, except when I owned a paintball business where I dressed in camouflage all day long. I'll give you the story behind, because there's always stories, right? So I would have my brokerage, and people would come in, and I'm not expecting people to be dressed in a suit every time they come see me to interview to work with me when we had Tropical Realty. But people would come literally in flip-flops, shorts, in a t-shirt or a Hawaiian shirt on an interview, and I would interview them. I'm like, I would never hire you. Now, can people pull that off? Yeah, like my friend Steve Romano in Cocoa Beach. If you ever saw him in a suit, you'll drop dead, because he goes out to formal weddings in shorts. But when you're going places, be professional. I would, even today, if I go on a listing appointment, which I do sell a few homes here and there, very seldom, I'm in a suit. Always. First impression is so important. Now, I will say in this weather, especially right now, I'd be saying to my buyer customers, do you mind if I dress in shorts tomorrow because it's hot as hell? And they'll never say no. But first impression is I'm a professional, right? Go to a realtor event. Very few people dressed in suits. And so be that level. Not fun. How many people here are not fun? Come on. Aaron, you're a little fun. You're almost fun. So the only thing I have going for me, because it's definitely not this, is fun. Like, I have fun no matter what I do. It's the reason why my wife loves me. It's the reason why she hates me too, right? Because everything's a joke now. But you have to make it light. So for instance, there's this type of realtor. So let me just tell you, everything's going wrong with this property. This is the worst deal I've ever dealt with in my life. Oh my God, this is a piece of shit, blah, blah, blah. Right? Oh, not supposed to swear. I'm sorry, Pat. I know you told me not to swear anymore, but it still comes out. One demerit, yeah. And then you have the people who absorb it all. Like with me, when you did a transaction with me, you would never know anything's going wrong, ever, unless I had to tell you. Now, if something's coming down where I have no choice, we have to negotiate something, I have to talk to you about it. But the reality is, I would be up all night, every night. I literally lived on 3-4 hours of sleep when I was selling houses, because I'm going to absorb all this stuff to give you the most wicked, awesome time of buying a house ever. And that memory, and I'll give you what that does for you. I have not sold full-time since 2005. And up until a couple of years ago when we kind of stopped, I was averaging on a low end 20 homes, on a high end 30 homes a year, all from referrals from customers for my first 4 years in the business. And then, by the way, the stuff I'm going to teach you today, I didn't do any of it. I didn't work my database. I think I sent them a card once a year at Christmas saying, hey, don't forget about me. But it was all because I did a good job. But mainly the line I heard over and over again is, we had so much fun. So make it fun. I took everybody out for lunch, or dinner. Every single customer I've ever had went out for lunch or dinner. I never talked about real estate in the car, ever. I talked about their kids. I talked about me, because I'm fun. No, I really just wanted them to talk about themselves and their families. I might talk to a customer and they'll tell me about their kid having a baseball game. I'm going to call the following week on the baseball game and see how they did. It's that personal stuff is more important. That's why I always did lunch. Lunch was always a great way to sit down. I'd take them to something with water views and just beautiful, right? Fun. Lack of follow-up. Who doesn't follow up? I never followed up. I sucked at it. But don't do me, do you? Follow up. Does that make sense? I don't know if that made sense. But follow-up is the most important part of this business. I got zero training when I first started, but what I got, which was so true today, was I'm only going to tell you one thing, so my broker said to me, follow up. And being in the internet space, of course, it's all about follow-up, right? If you don't follow up, you're losing. And then finally, mindset. And this is the one that drives me crazy the most, because I'll talk to agents, how many homes are you going to sell this year? 50. Awesome. What's your plan? I don't know. Right? I'm just going to sell 50 homes, which is great, but you have to actually believe that. And how do you believe that? You believe that if you run a business. I could project within 10% every single year my business, even through my brokerage years. Like everything I've done, I was able to project within 10% because I ran a business. I knew exactly what I was going to do. So you have to have the proper mindset. And the mindset, you're going to hear me say this more than once today, is you have to run a business. And I can tell you, I've trained thousands and thousands of agents and coached hundreds personally. Most don't. And that's why they fail mostly. Okay. All right, so what business are we in? And if you see me say this, but don't answer. What business? Come on. What else? What was that?
Lead generation.
You see me say this before you. Yes. So we're in the lead generation business, right? Every business is in the lead generation business, right? And we are no different. We're in the lead generation. So I'm going to do some of these. I'm not going to get through all these before we take a break. So we're going to take a break about 10 past 3. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go through these, and I want you to look at these. Some I'm going to go by in 3 seconds. Some I'm going to elaborate on more. Open houses and sphere of influence, I'm going to do a whole another section on that when we're done. But this is to get your brain thinking outside the box a little bit. All right, just to think a little bit different in lead generation. And by the way, I'm not talking about internet today. They're there. Internet leads, they're there. Actually, I'll give you a quick numbers on internet leads, just so you don't know the numbers. There's a hierarchy of internet leads. Hierarchy of internet leads is Facebook leads are the worst lead you could possibly get in the history of life, right? The average close is 1 out of 300. Now, does that not mean that somebody does better than that? Of course. But the average, these are national averages, 1 out of 300. The next is AdWords, Google AdWords, or pay-per-click marketing. It's 1 out of 100. Reason why we're known for what we know, ours was 6 out of 100. 6 out of 100. I thought it was terrible, but we're still the best in the country. No one's beaten us yet. The next, what's that?
6 out of 100.
That's what we were when we were doing lead conversion. Me, my group, yeah. So it's 1 out of 100 is your typical pay-per-click. Your next is Realtor.com and Zillow leads. All right, a lot more money. Average conversions 3%. 3%. When we did those, are 10 to 15%. And then you have your open houses, which I don't have stats on, but those are the next best lead. And then referrals are the best lead. Okay? So be careful where you put your time. Facebook leads in particular are really cheap, right? You spend like $1 a lead, but the 300 to make a sale is so much work and effort that it's not the dollar, it's the tens of hours of time you put in that has dollar value, right? Which is another thing to think about. Have you assigned yourself a dollar value? Like, what do you make per hour? Have you figured it out? You should. You know, lawyers know what they make, doctors know what they make. If we're professionals, you should know what you make per hour. I had a minimum when I first started, it was $250, and then it went up to $1,000, and I kept it there for a long time. But anybody can do that. You just have to have a thing. And by the way, setting your standards is another part of that. I just ramble, by the way, on stupid stuff that comes to my brain. Setting your standards. So I said when I got into real estate, as long as I make $250 a year, I'll be happy. So what did I make? $250, right? What did I should have said? I should have said, if I make $500,000 a year, I'd be doing good. I never upped my standards each year. I just was pretty comfortable with $250. What happens when you're comfortable? Your business eventually goes and crashes, right? So you always got to be leveling up. All right, so first thing is open houses. I'm not going to talk about open houses right now because we're going to do a whole section on open houses, which is cool. Who's doing open houses? Excellent. Best lead generation tool out there. Just so you know, those first 36 homes that I sold my first year, 28 were from open houses. So we mastered open houses. I had to because no one taught me how to do them. And by the way, the first day I got into real estate, 2 ladies came up to me and said, let me tell you how to do real estate. Don't do open houses. don't do internet, and don't do floor time. Nobody does floor time anymore, but back then that was a big thing. And I'm like, right, internet people are coming to me, open houses of people are coming to me, and floor time people are calling me. Why would I not do that? A year later, I found out why. They sold 2 homes each. Right? The people who give you the most advice sell the least amount of homes. Be wary of that. There's all these people, oh, I've been doing this for 20 years. I don't know how long you've been doing it. I had this is so mean, but I'm going to say it because it's funny. So I had this lady, I was probably 5 years in the business, probably already sold like 250 homes. And this lady, older lady, I've been doing this for 20 years. I go, you still suck. Yeah. Didn't go over very well. I thought it was funny. All right, so all of these, most of these do not give you a ton of sales, but they give you some. We had an agent every year did about 8 sales a year from garage sales and estate sales. Move-in parties, I love this. I did this a lot when I first started. So when I'd have a closing, I would send out a postcard to everybody in the neighborhood and say, this is usually within a month of the closing, depending on the buyer's time frame. And I'd say, come meet the Joneses at 555 Main Street. We're going to do a little barbecue. I'd bring a grill. I'd have water, beer, wine, and a little sign that said, welcome to the neighborhood. Mitch Ribak, Tropical Realty. We were Tropical Realty back then. And every time I did it, I got 1 or 2 more customers. And I did it all the time. Now, you can do it on a higher level, too. Some of my friends do these in California with the sales of 3, 4, 5 million. And they're doing a 5 couple dinner, private chef dinner, right? They're making $150,000, $200,000 and spending $4,000 or $5,000 on their dinner. But what does that solidify? It solidifies your customers. I love doing that. It was fun. Sponsor sports clubs. I was known as the $100 guy in Merritt Island. As I said that just now, that doesn't sound appropriate, does it? But every sports club could come to me from Merritt Island High School. They'd all come to me. I wrote $100 checks for everybody. Just sponsor stuff. Get your name out there. Be the good guy. The universe works in great ways. Teach classes. You can go to any corporation. At one point, we had about 15 corporations that we were going in and doing classes, and we were offering them discounts to their employees. Farming area. Who's doing farming? So farming's an interesting thing because it's a lost art. With the internet, kind of killed traditional farming. And I'm going to give you a quickie on farming and how to do it correctly. And just all honestly, I've never personally done this. This is from a friend of mine. I was selling 80 homes a year. I couldn't have added more business the way I was doing it, and I wanted to open my brokerage. But I'll give you a quick story. So this guy was buying a house off me, sight unseen, back in '03. And he goes, I just got to sell my home up here in Virginia. He's in Alexandria. And I just got to call our neighborhood realtor. Now, I know we all claim to be the neighborhood realtor, but how many times does the consumer call you the neighborhood realtor? Not very, right? So I go, what's his name? Can I have his number? His name's Jack. So I called Jack up. I say, Jack, my friend Mike's going to call you. He's going to list the house, and I don't want a referral fee. He goes, well, what do you want? I go, I want to know how you became the neighborhood realtor. So this is brilliant stuff, by the way, and I'll give you his numbers afterwards. So he had he went to this neighborhood, had 1,000 homes, and had a clubhouse. He did not live in the neighborhood. And he got permission from the HOA to do it. Well, first he did his postcard mailing. So he did 8 postcards in a row, 8 weeks in a row, and then every other week forever. So how many people have sent out a postcard to 500 people once? I did. I'm like, where are all the customers? We've all done that, right? Well, anybody who's doing anything, postcards. So he did that. So that was his main thing. Postcard go every other day. And the reason why is, and this is where I learned this from, why do people use you as a realtor? Besides, I trust me, and all that other crap. Why do they really use you as a realtor? It's being in front of them when they're thinking about buying or selling. That's it. I have tons and tons of customers that love me that didn't use me a second time. In fact, the stat from NAR is 88% of consumers say they would use their realtor again. Only 11% do. 11%. And why is that? It's not because the consumer sucks, it's because we suck. Right? Well, we're not in front of them. If you have to be in front of them when they're thinking about buying, when we talk about the sphere in a little bit, you'll understand this even more and how to actually implement that. Anyway, so the other thing he did, he got permission from the HOA to maintain the front entrance. They had a bunch of flowers and stuff. He says, I have so many flowers at my house, because every week he's bringing flowers up, putting them replanting them, bringing those back home, waving to the people as they drive by, blah, 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 look at me. And then every quarter he would do an event at the clubhouse. And not necessarily real estate. He said he'd do travel, he did financing. By the way, this is the end of the second year when I'm talking to him. Okay, so when I met him, end of the second year doing this. It wasn't new to the real estate, just new to farming like he's farming. And then the final thing he did, which I loved, is, you know, there's always a lady in the neighborhood, you know, in their 80s, and the house needs work, and the husband passed away. He would send out a postcard to everybody but her, and hey, I want to paint Mrs. So-and-so's house. I need some volunteers. He said he's done it twice at this point, and he got 10 to 15 volunteers each time. Isn't it? It's cool. So he truly became the neighborhood realtor. Wow. So think about it. So this is the end of his second year. He had 50 listings that he sold. We didn't talk about buyers at all. 50 listings. 50 listings, and his price point was $500,000, was $750,000 in commissions. His total expenditure was $36,000. But what did he do? He invested in his future. And one of the challenges in our business, because we don't run businesses, is we're not building a business. We're not building a business that's going to constantly repeat and repeat and repeat. So think about it with Jack. He's got all these signs everywhere. When you go drive around that neighborhood of 1,000 homes, whose sign are you seeing? You're seeing Jack's. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. No. Jack, right? All right, networking group. So Zoom has made this pretty awesome. Everybody knows BNI, right? And the Cocoa Beach Chamber, and all the chambers have all networking groups. I'm a big believer in being the leader. It might be a Napoleon complex for me, but I'm a big believer in being a leader. And so people always want to do business with the leader, always. So start your own networking group. You don't need to get a place anymore. You can do it all on Zoom. But every one of you knows, well, there's an inspector, there's an insurance guy, there's a mortgage guy. I mean, you all have that right there. We all know mortgage people, title people, lawyers, plumbers, electricians, blah, blah, blah. I can go on and on and on. Start a group where you're the leader, right? And then everybody respects that. Everybody wants people to work with leaders. Wedding conventions. One of our agents generates tons of leads every year from wedding conventions. Uber, Lyft, and taxis. I have a friend of mine who used to be a taxi driver at the port. Every month he'd be getting another couple hundred cards from me and giving them out. I can't tell you how many people called me from that because I don't remember. I didn't track it. I was past the tracking stage of my life. Hotels. I love this one. So where do we live? Where are we today? What town? Right? Who comes to Cocoa Beach besides us living here? Everybody, right? So why not do staycations? Who's hanging out at the pool? The people from New York looking for the house, people from Massachusetts looking for a house, everybody looking for a house is staying at this hotel, right? Hang out at the pool for the weekend. Guess what you get to do with that? Write it off. So you get to have an awesome weekend with your spouse or your friend, and you write the whole trip off. Right? You guys should never live at home on the weekends. You should be living in a hotel somewhere. Financial planners, because why? Because they know everything going on in their customers' lives. CPAs, same thing. Commercial agent. Anybody do commercial here? So in Karina, you do both, so I don't pick it, but a lot of commercial agents will never do a residential transaction. They despise them. There's too much emotion involved. They don't like emotion. Yeah, commercial agents have no emotion. They're like, just stand there. So you want to be friends with the commercial agents because they will refer you their leads. New home reps. How many people have lost a new home build to a new construction because they didn't go register the person? Well, everybody has, if you've sold any homes. And so I did a really good job at the beginning of my career going to every new construction and becoming friends with all the new home builders. So I'm not telling you I didn't lose any, but I had several times where someone would call me and say, hey Mitch, this guy said he was working with you, I'm going to put you down. If you don't know the rep, they're not putting you down. Everybody knows that if you don't register, you don't get paid, right? Everybody knows, most people don't know this, if you don't register them every 90 days, you don't get paid. Does everybody know that? I didn't know that till years later. Marriage counselors, right? They know who's going through divorces, right? And you talk to divorce attorneys. And then who do they go to? The bankruptcy and divorce judges, right? They're your friends. Become friends with them. Partner companies. You should be talking to your title company, your mortgage company, everybody you do business and help them contribute to your business. Right? Everybody should be it's not a one-way street between business. Everybody should be helping each other. Right? So you talk to your partners. For sale by owners. I'll give you a quickie on for sale by owners. Anybody do for sale by owners? Okay, they're really fun, right? So I actually like doing for sale by owners. I think they're a lot of fun. But I never did them traditionally because I like to do things completely different than everybody else. So here's how I do for sale by owners. I knock on the door. Everybody hear the term changing the pattern? Breaking the pattern, rather? It's a Tony Robbins thing. Anybody Tony Robbins fan? I love Tony Robbins. Yeah, you should all go to Tony Robbins stuff. It's awesome. So I knock on the door, and by the way, they've already been attacked by 7,000 realtors, right? I knock on the door, and I go, hey, I'm Mitch with Tropical Realty. Mitch with Tropical Realty. Before you say anything, I do not want to list your house. And they take a step back. They're confused. That's called breaking the pattern. You're breaking what they're thinking. They immediately want to yell at me, and then I broke that pattern so they didn't yell at me. Does that make sense? I'll give you a quick story on breaking the pattern before I continue. So during the foreclosure time, hi wife. All right, so remember all those jokes I said about my wife? We can't say those anymore because she's here, okay? So we were doing foreclosures, and if anybody else doing foreclosures, I know Steve, you're probably doing that stuff back in '08, right? And we didn't really know what we were doing. It was new to the area, '06, '07, '08, and we were a foreclosure broker agent. We did, I think, 130 foreclosures a year. And so we didn't know how they worked because it was the beginning. We'd normally close a house and then close the other house at the same time. So listing house would close and the buyer home would sell. We do that all the time, right? Back-to-back closings. And so one of our agents told the guy, yeah, no problem, we can do that, but it was a foreclosure. Well, what we know about foreclosures now is 3 days before closing, they pull the lien list to see if there's any new liens, and very seldom does the foreclosure actually close on time. So anyway, so this guy's yelling at her, you told me we could close on that Friday, blah, blah, blah. And what happens when the agent stops, gets yelled at? They don't answer the phone anymore, right? Who do they call? They call the broker. So he calls me up, he starts yelling at me, and you can't yell at me. I don't let anybody yell at me. I'm saying, sir, you can't yell at me. I'm going to hang up on you now. I go, if you want, you can meet me in my office. I'll be there at 10:30, and we can talk then. So I walk in at 10 o'clock, and this guy sitting there, who's sitting down, he was the same height as me, and he stands up, and I'm like, hey, big ass guy. And I go, come with me. So I sit down in my conference room, and he throws his keys on my table and goes to sit down. Well, I stand up, and I won't swear because I'm going to be a gentleman today, which is unusual for me. But I look at him and I said, sit the F down, shut the F up, or get the F out of my office. And he just looked at me because and by the way, New Yorker, by the way, always New Yorkers. And so he just looked at me with this look because he didn't know how to handle this little barely 5'6" guy, telling this 6'5" guy to sit down and shut the F up. But he did. I said, here's the deal. I don't need to sell your house. I don't need the money. I go, I'm going to make $2,000 on the foreclosure you buy, and we don't care. It doesn't affect my life one bit. So you can either tell me what's really going on now, or you can leave. So all of a sudden his eyes water up, right? And he looks at me, and I cry like at a dime. I'm like really sad. I can't watch movies anymore because I cry at war movies. I cry at everything, right? I cry at comedies. I'm like, but anyway, so he starts telling me he's dying of cancer. He wanted to close by Friday because he wanted the house set up because it goes into experimental treatment on Monday, and he doesn't expect to survive. So he's crying, I'm crying. I'm like, why didn't you tell me this? It was Debbie. Why didn't you tell Debbie this? She's the nicest person in the world. Well, because he's tough. He's a tough guy, right? So I said, let me see what I can do. I go, but honestly, it's really, really doubtful because trying to get Fannie Mae to approve closing without the 3-day notice is almost impossible. So I wrote a letter to the title company. And I'm a fairly good writer. I wrote a letter to the title company, wrote a letter to Fannie Mae, and we were able to pull it off and we closed on Friday. So here's the cool news. He went through the treatment and he survived and did fine, and he raved about us for years. He'd come in and visit me all the time. And a super nice guy. And think about that. If I didn't break the pattern, this sounds probably stronger than it is, but if he didn't close in the house, he goes into that treatment in a lot different mindset than he was going in, right? And who knows? But the point is breaking the pattern is so vital to our business. All right, so back to FSBOs. So I'm not going to go, hey, I'm Mitch with the Tropical Realty. But before you say anything, I'm not here to sell your house. I just want to make sure you have a seller's disclosure. Do you have a seller's disclosure? Never. Not one, and I've done this a gazillion times, not one's ever had a seller's disclosure. You know, if you don't disclose something to the buyer, you're liable for up to 5 years, right? They're like, what do you mean? I go, if you don't disclose something and something goes wrong and within 5 years they can prove that you knew, you're going to be paying for it. I go, here's the seller's disclosure. Now, you're not legally allowed to use Florida Realtor seller's disclosure, but if you go online and put in Florida generic seller's disclosure, there's a gazillion of them. There's tons of them. So I would hand that to him, and then we just start talking. He's totally broken. I'm not there to sell him anything. I'm just here to help you. I've seen so many for sale by others go bad, and I just want to make sure you don't make the same mistakes. Every single time I said, hey, you want to see my house? Every single time. So I walk in the house, go around. Now I'm like a listing agent. Well, you know, that wall's a little too cluttered. You might want to change that. Or, you know, did you know you have a leak there? And I'm going through all the stuff I would normally do. And I'd say things, you know, well, he's going to ask me, why am I doing this, first of all? And I'll say, you know, I know you don't want to use a realtor, but you're going to know someone looking to buy or sell a home, and hopefully you'll refer me if they want to use a realtor. That's why I do it. And I go, if you find a buyer, I always say, when you find a buyer, let me know. I can't write the contract for you, but I'll guide you a little bit. I can help you a little bit. I can't legally write it for you. But here's some cards. If somebody comes in and they're not with a realtor and they don't want your house, would you mind sharing this? The last time I did this, which is a long time ago now, we got two $850,000 buyers from that. And as I'm walking out, I'm saying, by the way, I do work with a lot of buyers and I do charge 3%. Is that okay? Sure. So we go home. I write a handwritten note to the person. Hey, really nice meeting you. Remember, I'm here to help. When you find a buyer, I'm here to help no matter what I can do. I'll give you a call next week. I call them the following week, and generally within the week or two, well, the number was 75% when we tracked it. 75% of the people we went to ended up listing with us because I went from here. So I may make lots of stupid jokes and stuff like that, but everything I've ever sold in my life, and everything, I'm not just talking about real estate, has been from my heart. And that's how people feel. They don't feel like I'm trying to sell them anything, they feel like I'm trying to help them. In fact, my slogan for many, many years was, I don't sell you, I help you. Not just real estate, everything. Okay, take some classes, right? Always good to meet people. Who golfs? All right, anybody want to go golfing this week? Let me know. I love golfing. So I didn't play golf when I got into real estate. I got my license in September, but by the end of September, I had taken 5 golf lessons. By the end of the year, I was a 9 handicap. I'm not anymore, I suck now, but I was good for a while. I was playing literally every day. I volunteered at the golf course because I was broke. I had just lost the online dating service and lost a little more money than I like to talk about. And but I literally go to the golf course every morning and they'd pair me up with somebody. Imagine being stuck with me for 4 hours every day. Poor people. But literally I go there and I golf, and then I go hit 450 balls afterwards, talk to people on the range. And I didn't sell one house that year, but I've probably sold 3 or 4 dozen at the golf course since then because of being there for now 22 years. I play 7 o'clock every Saturday morning there. Everybody knows me there. So play golf, because the cool part is everybody who likes to golf, and you know who golfs? Mostly people that have money. It's funny how that works, eh? Door knocking. Who door knocks? So door knocking is wicked awesome. Now the only time I door knocked was when I was doing open houses. I would door knock and tell people I was doing the open house, or I'd do a private 9 to 10 showing before I started my open house for them. But if you're going to door knock with a purpose, meaning have something to give them. So not just your card. Have instead of doing a postcard marketing, have a flyer that has all the comps on there, all the solds and actives and under contract things. Have something, or go, hey, did you know 555 Main Street just went under contract? We have lots of more buyers in this area. Do you know anybody looking to sell your home? But go in with some sort of information. And by the way, it doesn't have to be your listing. It's sold. It can be anybody's listing. It doesn't matter. You're not saying you sold it. You just sold it under contract. Lisa Lanchip. Anybody know Lisa Lanchip? I love Lisa. Good girl. She built her entire career. Everybody told her she couldn't make it in real estate. She went out there and every day knocked on the doors, and she's one of the top agents in the county now. I very much respect. Personal hobbies. So everybody heard of Meetup? Meetup.com? Yeah? Meetup.com is a great place to join a group. Just don't join a group with other realtors, because that's not going to help you sell homes, right? But if there's no group that you like, start your own group. Be the leader. This is my favorite one. We have an agent out in California, and I cannot remember who the kid is to reach out to him. I forgot completely because I met him 5 years ago. He does 30 transactions a year sitting at Starbucks. Think about that. 30 transactions a year. All he does, Monday through Friday, from 8 to 11, is sit at Starbucks. On the back of his laptop, right, back there, it says, real estate question, ask me. He said it took him about, what's the one? Oh, 5, yeah. Well, yes, there you go. But here's the thing with marketing, right? It's consistency. If you're not consistent in whatever you're doing, then don't do it. If you're going to do postcard marketing, don't stop. If you're going to do an open house, do the same open house every single week till it sells, so people see you in that neighborhood. Try to stay in that area. You know, if you're going to do Starbucks, by the way, what's the other cool thing about Starbucks? 2 things. Price point. So say you're a place that you don't like your price point. We can go to a Starbucks with a higher price point. Yeah. Right? You want to get into Vera? Liz Chen, we were talking about that earlier, he didn't leave. Go to Starbucks in Vera. Right? You want to go to Merritt Island, to the Starbucks, they get 2 Starbucks now in Merritt Island. The other cool thing about Starbucks is that the same people are there at the same time every day. The guy that comes in at 9 o'clock today is there at 9 o'clock tomorrow. Right? So it's the same people. He told me when I met this kid, he told me it took him 2 months before one person would talk to him. 2 months. I have another one of our agents who actually did this once, got 2 buyers to talk to, and never did it again. Consistency. Singles organizations. Who's single? Great place to meet women and find people that are divorced that need to sell their homes, or vice versa. Bunco and poker parties. Pat does the bunco thing. I don't really know what that means, and poker is cool. Volunteer. So I'm a huge universe guy, always have been, and we're going to stop on this one, and for a few minutes, take a break. But I'm a huge universe guy, and the more you really give back to the world, the more the world gives back to you. The universe will take care of you. Always has, always does. I'm not a very religious person. People ask me all the time. I'm a very spiritual person. But I 100% believe that the universe will take care of you. And everybody has times in their life that suck. Right? Anybody ever never had a time that sucked? You've never had a time that sucked? Everybody's had times that suck, right? Deaths in your family or even personal stuff. I mean, I'll give you a quick story on it in New Orleans. In 1990, I lost my restaurant. And I lost my dad 4 months later. It was a year and a half of my life that was hell. Like really, it's the only time in my life I've been depressed. I mean, I lost all my money and I lost my dad. The upside to it is I lost my restaurant and I got to spend 4 months with my dad every single day before he died. So there's always a reason why the bad stuff happens. There's always a shining light on the other side. But some people get so walled down in that negativity that they never get out of that moment. And we've all gone through it. And it's always better. When I lost everything with the online dating service, I thought financially I was ruined forever. I lost, I got stupid money. And within a year, back. So I did an exercise when I turned 60 a couple of years ago. I did an exercise on my life and of my 60 years, how much sucked. Right? And I went through every time of my life, and there was many that sucked. But most of them a month, 2 months, a year and a half with my dad when he died. But it worked out to 3%. 3%. So that means I've had a wicked awesome 97%. I'll take that every day. So most people, not you, but most people dwell on the negative. I'm just talking about the universe. If you're giving out that energy, what are you going to get back? If you have to sell a house today, what's going to happen? You ain't selling nothing, right? So you always have to be putting out positive energy to everything. And that's why I love charitable work. Charities, reward you over and over and over. If not financially, it's from the heart. Moving on. More ways to generate leads. If you've not volunteered or set up a booth or anything at a holiday event for any of the cities, you should be doing that. Remember, there's 2 types of marketing. Is that better back there, Pat? Okay. There's 2 types of marketing. There's marketing to generate business today, and there's marketing to just brand yourself. So the reason why I got into the internet marketing right away was because that was instant business for me, pretty much. Not right away, but pretty much. It created a cycle of nonstop business. But open houses, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes, were constant. That was instant business for me. I got business directly from that. City holiday party, it's more about getting your name out there and being in front of people, and you might get lucky here and there, but it's about doing multiple things like that. Country club, yacht club, anybody a member of Suntree Country Club, Rockledge Country Club, or Hugali Yacht Club? You need to be. Even if you don't play golf, even if you don't have a boat, I for one suck at boats. I will never have a boat. I have friends with boats. I like those. The reason being, again, who hangs out in those places? Rich people, right? So, there's a couple of realtors in town that live at the Ugali Yacht Club. They're there all the time. They only sell $750,000 up houses every time. So who you hang out with matters. If you're hanging out at the local bar, nothing wrong with that, by the way, but you're probably not going to have $500,000, $1 million buyers. So where do you want to be strategic? And by the way, it's not that expensive. Now, Suntree is ridiculous now. I think there's a 20,000 person waiting list, I heard. Now, there could be 200. I might have exaggerated. It's one of those two. But Rockledge has plenty of room. Rockledge is a great course. Anybody part of an HOA here? Try to be president. I know it sucks, but talk about getting name recognition in front of all those people. Seminars. I'm a big believer in seminars if you do them correctly. When I first got rolling, I actually partnered with somebody. I don't recommend that because I did all the work and gave away 50% of my commissions. However, we did seminars on how to buy a home. We did first-time home buyers. We did a heroes program. Every time I did one, I got 20 to 30 people in a room, and every time I did one, I got 2 or 3 sales. Every time. Local schools, who has kids? One person has kids? Wow. You guys need to work on that. So if you have kids, go volunteer at the school and wear your branded shirt, right? Internet leads, we're not going to talk about because I just don't feel like it, sorry. Anybody want to talk about internet leads? No, good, thank you. Thank you very much. All right, so, and then circle of influence. So we're going to get into, for the next half hour, 45 minutes before we finish this, I'm going to talk about open houses and your sphere of influence. So as I said earlier, I sold 36 homes my first year, 28 were open houses. And I understand why people don't do them because they don't do them correctly, and when you don't do them correctly, it doesn't work. So I'm going to give you how I did that. I had to create the system. It took me about 6 months to create my open house system. Never in my, again, I only sold full-time for 4 years before I started my brokerage, but I never sold less than 24 homes in a year from open houses. When I did 80 homes a year sales, I still did an open house every weekend. Did not miss weekends. Now because of that, I can tell you there was only a 2-month period in the 4 years that I sold full-time that I had no sales. It was April and May of 2004. I had 0 closings. I had 13 in June though. Kind of made up for it, right? It was okay. But all of it was because I built a really good open house system and had continuous flow of business. The one challenge everybody has in real estate is this is your realtor life, right? Closings, no closings. Closings the next month, no closings. And why is that? Because everybody stops working when they have closings because they're spending too much time on their closings. Now, if you're going to run a business, this is a little off subject, but if you're going to truly run a business, you should have a closing coordinator. If you're really running a business, you should never be doing $12, $15 an hour jobs. You shouldn't be. You're not running a business. If anybody reads, I'm going to give you a couple books to read. One is called E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber.
What was that?
E-Myth, M-Y-T-H, E-M-Y-T-H, Revisited. Make sure it's the revisited one. He's got other ones, he's got real estate, but don't read those. Read E-Myth Revisited by Michael Gerber. It was a change in my life. I was running the online dating service, traveling 25 days a month back then, calling my assistant 6-8 times a day. Are they doing this? Are they doing that? Are they doing this? Are they doing that? And a friend of mine said, he was listening to me, he's like, Mitch, you cannot run a business like this. And he gave me that book, and it changed my life forever because I learned how to delegate and how to have faith in the people that I hired. It's very important. What's that? What's that? Oh, I thought it was Michael Gerber. Funny story, I called Michael, a friend of mine actually had a coaching session with him last year, and I said, let me have his number, I want to call him. So I call him up, he's like 85 years old now. I call him up, I go, Michael, I just wanted to tell you, because I've been in this mode of calling people that have changed my life, and your book changed my life, and I just want to let you know that. He goes, well, you should join my coaching service. I'm like, no, I just want to buy your book. He goes, no. He was like high pressure selling me at 85 years old. It was hysterical. It was great. All right, so back to open houses. Oh, the other one is Good to Great by Jim Collins. In Good to Great, there's a line, I'm a one-line guy. I figure out one line in a book that makes sense to me. And that one, and this is not the exact quote, is good is the evil of great. Did everybody hear that? Good is the evil of great. And it's such a powerful statement, and here's why. Everybody in society, and I'm just everywhere, I mean, it's getting worse and worse these days, are really happy being good. Because being great is a lot more work. So everybody just gets to this good, and they go around their life going, oh, yeah, I'm good. I kind of suck, but I'm good. And because nobody wants to get to here. And I'll tell you a quick story. I was with Glenn Sanford in Puerto Rico a few months back, and Glenn Sanford's the CEO for EXP. And it was just me and him. Glenn's a billionaire now, thanks to EXP for him. And he was telling me about some of the projects he's working on. I'm going, Glenn, you've already made it. Why are you doing that? He goes, because once you stop leveling up, you're dead. And you got to look at that in your lives and just look at yourself. Are you really accomplishing your goals, or are you just ho-humming? It's like next day running into the next day, and you're not getting where you want to be. There's a way out. You just have to do the work together. And that's the other book, Relentless, which is, I don't remember the author's name, but he's Kobe Bryant's coach. And that's the one line I got out of that is do the work. You're not going to get here I can't stand it high enough. You're not going to get there not doing the work. If you're a reactionary realtor, you're waiting for the phone to ring. It's not going to happen. If you're working on your house and doing social media all day, it's not going to happen. I hate to tell you that, right? Had a girl come to my office a year ago, and I was new to the area, and she asked if I'd give her a coaching lesson, which, as you all know, you can all come to me for coaching for any time. And I said, sure. So I go, what have you been doing for the 4 months you've been here? She's been a realtor for about 2 years, but 4 months here. And she goes, well, I've been doing a lot of social media. I go, well, how's that going? She goes, well, I haven't got any sales yet, so I guess it's not going so well, right? I go, here's what I want you to do. There's a place, I think it's called Osario's in Coker Village. Is that the coffee shop there, Osario's? I go, every time I've ever been there, there's a line. I want you to go there, and I want you to talk to the person in line and just say, this is really tricky, hey, how's your day going? And what are they going to say back to you? They're going to say, oh, good, how's your day going, right? Oh, I'm in real estate, it's crazy business. She calls me 2 hours later, she got a listing. Right? I've sold so many homes at Publix, because I do the grocery shopping in the family. At least I used to, she does now because she's retired, and she can. But I will go and look for the longest line. And I've sold dozens and dozens of homes at Publix. Dozens. Because everybody's sitting at home doing nothing, waiting for business to happen. Make it happen. Go out there, meet people, talk to people. You know, I never was home. My goal every 6 months was to give away 1,000 business cards. Wouldn't do that now because I would never give away a business card ever again. And I'll give you this quick story before I get to the open houses. I don't ever hand out business cards. And I learned this from my friend Pete Middleton in San Diego. 1 o'clock in the morning, we had a couple of vodkas, maybe too many couple of vodkas, and we meet these 20 guys, and they all own security companies. And every twice a year, they meet somewhere in the country and just hang out. So they're meeting and they're having a conversation, and we start interjecting. And when you meet Pete, you know Pete's a realtor immediately, right? And Pete just finished showing me his brand new business cards, literally 15 minutes earlier. So the guy goes, well, I'm thinking about buying a house here. My daughter just moved here. And Pete's like, Pete, do you have a business card? He goes, no, I don't have any cards on me. He goes, let me text you my info. What did he have when he texted him his info? Sold him a $3.4 million house, right? So that guy probably would have forgot about Pete if he gave him a business card because it was 1 o'clock in the morning at a bar. So I don't ever give out cards. So you don't need to give out cards anymore. Just get their information. Your job, even in line at Publix, your goal should be to get somebody added to your CRM, getting market updates every month. Very simple. All right, so open house, let's get into them. So first of all, picking the right house is really important. I don't do gated communities because gated communities are a pain in the butt. No other reason, just a pain in the butt. I can't imagine, I've never done one, but I would imagine that the homeowners wouldn't be excited for somebody sitting outside the gate giving away the code to get into the HOA that's private, right? I always pick a home that's, first of all, I only did vacant homes. I did not do homes that were furnished or with people. I picked 2 more homes in the area that were also vacant. This will be important in a couple minutes. This will be important. So 2 more homes in the area that are also vacant. I prefer homes that look like they're going to stay on the market for a while. Now a little more challenging in this market, right? But I want to stay in that home forever because if you stay in that home forever, you can end up owning that neighborhood. And that's how I started my career. I stayed in Island Crossings in Merritt Islands where I did my first open house, and I literally was there for 2 years. And that's where all my business came from, almost all of it. Hours, I always did 10 to 4. Right? I don't believe in 2-hour open houses. I don't understand why people do 2-hour open houses. It's like, why waste your time? So I was doing 10 to 4. And I would never, ever advertise them. And I get battles with this all the time with my realtors. And by the way, none of my realtors listen to this. So I'm going to tie all this together in a few minutes. But I never ever advertised them. I used at least 20 to 30 signs. And what we learned over doing data and tracking things is 90% of the people that came to the open houses come from signs. That's just a fact. I had one of my agents challenge me that a couple of years ago, and we tested it. We did a bunch of marketing for the open house and all this stuff, and we asked every person that came through, 90% still came from signs. Balloons, open house flags, make it look like it's something. Don't just, nonchalantly go there 5 minutes before and put a couple signs out. You want to make it something, right? Material, obviously, I always say wireless laptop because everything's wireless now. Laptops, I don't print out the current listing anymore. I will put that in my notes section and text it to them if they want a copy of the listing. I will, same thing with listings in the area, I'll do that. I don't print anything anymore. I used to go with all these flyers. now I would just be texting them the links for everything. It's all about you capturing the names. And obviously some drinks and water and food. I'm not a big believer in doing alcohol at open houses. Liability is just too high. Plus I drink it also. And so that's to set up your open house. And here's the messaging. And this is so important. Almost everybody says, are you working with a realtor? Easy question, right? It's the wrong question because 90% of the people say yes. The question is, which realtor in town are you working with? 90% don't have a realtor. Now I'm going to take that a step further. So one thing, a lot of you guys don't know me, I would never screw anybody for $1. I'm like above the board ethical and honest when it comes to anything. Mainly because I'm too old to remember my lies now, so I don't do it. But I would never steal a customer from an agent, just against my morals. And so, but when someone comes in and says, yes, I'm working with Bill Smith, I can say, oh, how do you know Bill? And I say, oh, Bill's a great guy, even if I don't know Bill. Bill's a great guy. How do you know Bill? Or has Bill been showing you property? Well, no, we're just getting listings from him. Oh, so have you met Bill? No. She's not working with Bill. Right? If they're just getting listings because they registered on a website, they're not getting, whether it's a Zillow lead, they're not working with them. If they say I'm working with Bill, and oh yeah, Bill's out showing us property, I'm actually going to call Bill as soon as I leave and tell him that, hey, Bill, your customers came to the house. Just want to let you know. But I drill down a little bit further because I want to make sure I know that. So the next thing I do is when we're walking around the house, and by the way, getting people to give you their phone number and email address is a matter of confidence. I love those sounds. So if you're, I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Getting people to sign in. I know what time. Yeah. So getting people to sign in. I'm so easily ADD distracted from things. I'm not just ADD. I'm ADD. All right. So when getting people to sign in is a matter of your confidence level. I've never had anybody. I've had a couple people say no, but very few people ever have an issue signing in. Right? And you should sign in using an app. Almost every website now has an open house app you can do. You should be using some type of app. All right, so the person's going through the house. I'm not one to follow people around the house. It's just not my style. And then what I would do is when they're coming out, I'd say, so what do you think of the house? Common question, right? They say, oh, that's nice. Is this the price range you're looking at? Yeah, it's pretty much where we're looking to be. Going back to my 2 homes, right? By the way, I have 2 more homes available down the street around the same price range. Would you like to take a look? We ran between 75 and 80% of people said yes. That's what they're out. They're looking at houses. So I put a little be back. This is again why I don't advertise. Be back in 30 minutes sign on my door, and I get them in my car and we go look at those 2 homes. Now what I did before the day started is I got permission from those listing agents to show the properties all day. And I would tell her if somebody's already showing, we'll stand outside and wait till they're done. Of course, I'm not going to interrupt the showing. So I got permission. While I'm with those people, I am not talking about real estate. I already know kind of what they're looking for, and we'll get to that. My job now is to find out, are they buying now or are they buying later? So in the conversation, we're talking about the families. Again, like I said earlier, I build relationships. That's what my job is. It always has been. And so I build these relationships, and in there I'm going to find out if they're pre-approved and their buying time frame. So if their buying time frame is now and they're pre-approved, I'm going to say, you guys seem like a really nice couple. I really don't want to do my open house today. I go, what if I go close it down? Let's go look at some more homes. All the time. And that was how I was able to show so many homes. I built relationships during those 2 homes, went back, pulled up all my signs. Again, today, back then we had to go back to the office and do it because you couldn't do it wirelessly. Now you can just literally go online in there and pick up some more homes and go look at homes. So it's the difference between being strategic and not. Just doing an open house just isn't effective if you're not being strategic in it. Pretty simple, right? Anybody can do this. I've taken agents that were brand new and they're selling their first home in their first month. I sold my first home in a week. I started my business September 10th, 2001. September 11th was 9/11. So we kind of stopped that day, went and gave blood, and we all walked around in a fog. If you guys were alive back then, I know some of you guys might not have been alive then. That's so weird. And then I knew my weakness in real estate was going to be contracts. So I wrote 10 fake contracts on Wednesday, 10 on Thursday, 10 on Friday. If you're newer and you haven't sold a lot of homes, you should be writing fake contracts all the time because when it comes time to write one, you need to know how to do it. And then I went to an open house not knowing any idea what I was doing. I was driving to the open house, and I got no training. I was just going there. I had like 4 signs. And I said, well, I don't know how to be a realtor, but I bought a few homes, so I know what they did, and they're all terrible, so I won't be like them. And I've seen them on TV. I guess I'll just be funny and talk to people. And the last couple that came through was really cool, Joe and Diane. They're like, we can't, so they were so excited about being my first. It was, so I took them back to the office and I sold my house that afternoon. Pretty cool. But you can create a very repetitive business. Yes?
What happens when you have a full house of people?
So it's,
Somebody who doesn't have an agent and wants to go see.
yeah, it's just more challenging. I mean, you can't always leave the house. So in this market here, it's not a bad idea to partner with somebody in open houses, so one can stay and one can leave, and keep funneling each other back. I know several of our agents are doing that. So yeah, there's always times you can't, so you just do the best you can. But most open houses, you're not having that. Now, right now, a little more than you would normally. Actually, last year, a lot more than you would normally. Now, it's slowed down. Business has slowed down. We're up probably about 30%. So, okay. Any other questions? That's open houses. If you want to build a predictable business where you're never worrying about having a sale, do open houses every week. Stay in the same house every week. It's really simple. Talking about communication again. Don't talk about real estate. Right? Build that from the heart. Become their friend. That's like, I would say that's probably my best quality of selling houses. I became everybody's friend, and I take the guys golfing. So we go to lunch. I was always friends with the people. I always try to be their friend. All right. So there's just some more stuff on relationships. All right. These are the numbers. That's the other part that I want you to understand is what you do today will benefit you 90 days from today. So we're all instant gratification nation, right? Everybody wants instant gratification. It doesn't happen that way. So what you do today, so say, I don't even know what month we're in, August, right? So if you're in August, you get 2 potential buyers in each month. So look at numbers. If you did an open house every week and you got 2 buyers every week, that's 8 per month. And we know 2 out of those 8 are buying. Now, right now, it's a lot more higher than those numbers, but these are very conservative numbers. And then at the end of the month, you have 2 solid buyers. So 3 months from now, you'd get your first sales from those open houses. Now, it can happen quicker, but I like to set expectations. So when I talk about expectations, I want you to think that, all right, if I do it today, 90 days from now, I'll get a contract. If you don't have a contract in the first 2 or 3 times you do an open house, don't quit. You ever see the old line, I can't do it out here, yeah. I always tell people this is the difference between me and like the rest of the world, is this is the average person in the world. They walk in the walls, right? Anybody ever walk in a wall? I did it last night. I was on my phone, walked into my wall outside my house. Walk in the wall 4 times, they go sit down, they're over, right? This is me walking the wall. I walk in the wall, 455, 456, 457. Oh, there's a door. So my point is, it's happening right after you stopped. And everybody stops too quick. And that's everything. That's not just real estate, that's just life. Everybody stops right before the win. And if you keep going, everybody who keeps going wins. It just, sometimes it takes people a little bit longer. But the ones that quit, they quit right before the stop. All right, so that's a breakdown of that. All right, so I want to talk about circle of influence for the rest of our time. I think you can still do this on your phone. Everybody take out your phone. Let me see. Everybody take out your phone. And I want you to go to your contacts, and I want you to scroll to the bottom. Now, it should tell you how many contacts you have in your phone. Is everybody seeing that? It works. Give me your number. 685. 685. Somebody else give me some numbers. 3,000. Who's got 3,000? Of course you do. Who else? Give me some more numbers. 89. 89? Okay.
783.
All right. So the statistic is 7 out of 100 of your contacts are going to buy or sell a home this year. That's the stat. It's not my stat. That is the stat. 7 out of 100. How many of you people have actually worked with your sphere of influence? And I can tell you, I've taught this to thousands of people, and I know 2 people have actually done what I'm going to teach you today, right? Because it's overwhelming. So what did I say about overwhelming earlier? Spend 15 minutes a day over the next month, and you'll have this done. All right? So you're going to create 2 lists. Who's from here for the last 20 years? Last 15 years? Most of you? Okay. I'm going to create two lists. One list of everybody in where you service. Now, some of you guys service Orlando, I know, and Vero Beach, and some people service up to New Smyrna and Daytona. So everywhere you service, I want you to make that list of every single person you know, their name and their email address. Okay? Now, if you don't have their email address, what do? You text them and, hey, Bill, I'm updating my contact info. What's your email address? What did I say earlier about why people use you? Because you happen to be in front of them when they're buying or selling. That's it. Everybody, how many realtors do we have in Brevard County? 5,500. Think about that. 5,500. 1% of the population is a realtor. Isn't that crazy? So if we weren't in real estate, I'd know 20 realtors. We all would. Everybody knows 20 realtors. I used to say 10, but now everybody knows 20. And with Facebook, I think everybody knows 3,000. But so you create two lists: list of where you service, and then the list of everybody else. So your friends, family, acquaintances that in the area that you service, friends, family, acquaintances that you don't. We have two different messages we're going to do. You can do this through MailChimp or Constant Contact or any other email program you use. Those are the two programs that I know. I think they're about $20 a month, right, for 2,000 contacts or so. Sorry, good. I know, I'm quick. Well, the bar's calling, so I want to make sure we get there. All right, so your market area, email. So your first email that goes out to the local market, the people that you service, is really simple. You're going to do this every single month. The board, we're all on the same board here, the board sends out market updates every month, right? You all get them? So you're going to start, your email is going to start with, hi Bill. I don't know why I always use the name Bill for everything, but there must have been a Bill in my other life, I don't know. But hi Bill. One of the things I do for my friends and family is keep them updated on the local market. Below is the stats for last month in Brevard County. And you copy and paste it in there. And then you end with this, and I'm gonna leave that up there so you can write this down, because it's really important that you end it exactly like this. As you know, as a realtor, I work by referral only, and I could really, really use your help. If you know anyone looking to buy or sell a home, would you mind sending me their contact info? It's important that you ask for the business. What most people say is, hey, if you know someone looking to buy or sell a home, give them my contact info. They're not going to do that. Okay? If we did this right now, and I'm not going to do it just from a time standpoint, I'm going to give you something else to write down real quick when we're out of here. I want you to do this with your contact info. It's kind of on the same idea. I want you to put into your notes the following lines. I'm in a class right now, and we're having a contest. And I could really, really use your help. If you know somebody looking to buy or sell a home, could you send me their contact info? I'm in a class right now, and we're having a contest, and I could really, really use your help. If you know somebody looking to buy or sell a home, could you send me their contact info? Now, I want you to put that in your notes section and go down your phone, and every person do individualize. Hi Tom, paste. Hi Sally, paste. Hi Sue, paste. And you go through your phone. Now I'll tell you the story behind this. Last time I did this in front of a larger audience, so I had more time. We had 100 people in the audience. We generated 185 leads in 8 minutes. I did this with one of my agents not too long ago, well, actually a year ago now at least. We're sitting at Bonefish, so it's gonna be at least a year ago. And he was complaining because he had no business, so I made him do this right while we were sitting at the bar. Within 5 minutes, he got 2 leads, sold 2 homes 2 weeks. I did this in Indiana in January. By the way, who's from Indiana? Anybody? Do not go to Indiana in the winter. Sucks. Really cold. Got 8 inches of snow while I was there. I told him I wouldn't speak, but he made me come. But we did it there. And one of the agents walked out of there with a $980,000 listing in an area where the average price is $250,000. But being in front of people when they're thinking about buying or selling a home. Right. You can do that at your own time. So this guy, the kid that I told that got those 2 sales, he does that every quarter now. He goes through, but he does something fun, like he'll send, all I want for Christmas is a referral. The pot at the end of the rainbow is a referral. He just makes stupid little graphics and texts them out to like 90 people. He says every time he does it, he gets at least 1 sale. Okay. All right, so back to this. So everybody get that down. As you know, as a realtor, I work by referral only, and I could really, really use your help. Really, really is vital It's a psychology thing. Don't ask me, I'm not a psychologist. But when I learned this, they told me really, really is really, really important. So I really, really do it. So everybody get that? So that's the first email that goes out. Now that email is 12 emails, and you get changed up every month. You really don't have to change it up like 6 months. Like the next one might be, as a realtor, I work with vendors, and if you ever need a plumber or electrician, I know some of the best in the county. By the way, here are the stats for next month. Boom. Hey, have you ever been interested in what's going on in your neighborhood? I can send you all the listings that are going on in your neighborhood. By the way, here are the stats for last month. As you get people, now I do this in MailChimp, and I do not move them to my website CRM until they raise their hand. So one of the things about working with databases for so many years now is if there's too many leads in your database, you won't work any of them. So you want to keep it sparse. Only people that are getting information about buying and selling homes, not the rest of the people. I know a lot of people will do this and they'll put it into their regular database, tied in with all their stuff, and they have 2,000 leads in their database, and they're not working anything, they're not selling anything. All right, out of area people. So this is my favorite thing. This is how this came about. My buddy Joe up in Boston is my friend who convinced me to be a realtor. He's like, when I lost the dating service during the internet bubble in 2000, he's like, Mitch, get your real estate license. I'm like, I don't want to be a realtor. I don't like realtors. I never had a good realtor when I was growing up, which by the way has made me a better realtor because I had bad realtors. But he said, get your real estate license, you'd be good at it. So I got it. In about 3 or 4 minutes in, I realized that it was worse than I thought it was. I said, called him up one day and I said, Joe, I say, one of the things I've learned in the last few months about being a realtor is that not all realtors are created equal, and picking the wrong realtor could cost you tens of thousands of dollars. I go, so if you know anybody looking to buy or sell a home, let me know and I'll interview realtors for you. And by the way, I just blurted out of my mouth. He goes, well, actually, my friend's looking for a house. So I go, well, what's his number? So I called him up and he said, yeah, my wife and I are looking for a house. We've been renting for the last 20 years and we want to buy a home. And we didn't even know where to start. So I go, well, one of the things I do for my friends and family is I help them find the right realtor to make sure they have a good realtor so they don't lose tens of thousands of dollars on their transaction. He goes, that'd be great. 2 months later, I had a check for like $1,400. I got a referral fee. I'm like, ding, 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 new business. Every year I made an extra $25,000, $30,000 a year making phone calls to my friends up in Boston. Every year. And I stopped doing it probably 2005-ish. But my point is, you can do this now through email. Create a list of all your friends and family out of the area, and once a month send them this email. And that's what's on the board is what to say there. I don't need to repeat it. Everybody got that? So it's, again, being in front of them when they think about buying or selling. This is a once a month email. The other email that goes out to your market center, your market area, is things to do. So 2 weeks after you send out your market update email, you send out this email. It says, one of the things I do for my friends, I get to do for my friends and family that's fun is give them my top 10 things to do in Brevard County. Go online, find the cool top things to do next month, put it in the email, and then end with the exact same line. As you know, as a realtor, I work by referral, blah, 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 blah. All right? So it's not about the content, it's about the contact. It's about being in front of them when they're looking to buy or sell. It's really not, this is not rocket science, people. This is really, really simple. The question is, will you actually implement it? There's no reason to be doing social media, paying for social media. There's no reason to be buying Zillow leads, which is stupid expensive. There's no reason to be chasing new leads. Everybody's chasing new leads when you have it all sitting right here. Between here and Facebook, you know more people than you'll ever need to know in your life to be a successful business. And yet nobody does it. And I've taught this to hundreds and hundreds of people locally. Nobody does it. So people ask me all the time about, am I going to cross over and be sending the same stuff that somebody else is sending them? No, because nobody's doing it. All right. Any questions on any of that? All right. I really hope you take the time to put that into action because it's very powerful. Let's talk about lead conversion to finish this up. And I'm going to keep this really simple. This is really high level stuff. So lead conversion is a science. And I spend millions of dollars figuring out properly to be the best at it in the country. Am I the best today? No, because I haven't really been doing it the last 4 years, 5 years. But we had a well-oiled machine and we spent a lot of money making mistakes so that our agents and the people I teach don't have to. So first of all, you have to understand the whole cycle of the lead. But this is with every product in the world. I don't care what product you're in, but every product has the same sales cycle. You capture leads, right? Every product. I don't care what you're going to sell. And then you have to nurture those leads. What do we suck at? Right? And then you close the lead, and what do you have to do? Create a customer for life. What do we suck at? Creating customers for life. We just suck at it. You can't get your real estate license unless you suck at follow-up. Sorry, I read it in the book. It's question 38, I think. If you suck at follow-up, you pass. All right, so capture, nurture, close, follow-up. Right? So if you're not good at it, then you should have somebody doing it for you. That's why I started the inside sales department in my brokerage, because we knew that the agents would suck at it. And I'm not condemning it for that, but it's just a reality. I suck at it. I'm just as bad as everybody else. But the two most important parts of lead conversion, but with leads that are relevant with a people, it's all the same. It's the nurture and the follow-up afterwards. After course. I determine buying and selling time frames. It's really important you know when they're buying. When they buy a house, when they sell their home. So you can put them into a follow-up schedule. Like I'm not going to call somebody who's buying a house a year from now every week. Right? I'm going to call them every couple months. Right? When we get to 6 months, I'm going to call them every 6 weeks. When we get to 3 months, I'm going to call them once a month. We're not going to call people if they're not buying yet. The other thing with follow-up, by the way, just want to put the scenario out there. So I used to teach my agents that if you do a great job of follow-up over the next 6 months, you're building this relationship. If you don't, say they meet somebody in another open house another time, they say you work with a realtor, I don't know, some guy named Rich or Ditch or Mitch sending me stuff. I didn't build a relationship, right? They didn't call me. But if I was calling them on a regular basis, talking to them on a regular basis, building a friendship with them, if they go to an open house and they say you work with a realtor, yeah, work with a realtor. So there's somebody else will do that. So you're talking about kind of like a 6 month close for that. At the end of 6 months, if someone calls me in 5 months, they don't work with them, unless you do home. It's the most important thing we do, we're all talking about. Every single lead you get, I don't care where you get them from, I don't care if they gave you permission on it, set them up so they're getting listing updates. Every single lead you get them at, where you get that lead from, needs to get listing updates because you have to be in front of them at all times. Those searches have to be broad. Let me explain what I mean to that, especially in this market. The reason why we set them up with listing updates is why? Because when you come in front of them when they're thinking of buying or selling, especially if you're dealing with out of state people. They go home, back up to Maine, they come back 6 months later, a year later, to buy a house. So you have to stay in touch with them. If you make the search very tight, exactly what they want, then they get notifications once every 3 weeks. If you broad, so I'll give you an example. Someone's looking for a $400,000 house in Marion. Get it here. I'm going to do a $300,000 to $500,000 search. I want at least 25 listings to match that search. So with 25 listings to match that search, I know they're going to get notified 2, 3, or 4 times a week on my email listing on this. That make sense? In front of them all the time. We're making tight ones like this, you're not in front of them all the time. Again, everybody has to be set up to get the, so you're going to call a lead, and when I say call a lead, we use some stats. By the way, I ran an ISA company for 3 years before we decided to close it down. It wasn't fun. I don't know if it's very fun. And we handle between 10 and 15,000 leads per month. So when I give you the numbers, they're real numbers. I don't make them up. If you make a phone call, how many people heard speed to lead? Right? Call lead right away, right? Well, the reality is, it's really a lie. It's a sales pitch, but people try to sell your stuff. If you call someone within 5 minutes, you'll get hold of 21%. If you call people within 24 hours, you'll get hold of 20%. Not much difference. However, if you call, and most people will stop at the first call, and 42% of leads will never call. If you call 4 times over 8 days, so these are regular leads, not Zillow leads. Those are a little different formula. But if when we called over 4 times over 8 days, so every other day for 4 days, we would get a hold of between 65 and 70%. So think about that. We're going to sell more homes because we call more, just on the initial contact. Canadian leads. Anybody work with people from Canada? Canadian leads are 70%. U.S. leads are at 65 to 68. Canadians are more friendly than U.S. people. Don't call New Yorkers because that's like a 12%. I don't know why I have to pick on New Yorkers all the time. It's just fun. But you have to get, so when I talk about calling people, it's not about calling, it's about contacting them. Now, once you're talking to them, what's your best way to communicate? Would you like email? Would you like text? Would you like phone call? You know what I'm going to do every time? I'm still going to phone call. Email's a little less personal, text is better, but text doesn't understand tone. Like text isn't going to understand my stupid jokes, right? So I'm always going to try to call the people. Everybody gets set up in a drip email campaign. And drip email campaigns are a whole nother science. Drip email campaigns are we would do them based on what the lead was. So an active lead that was high end would have its own drip campaign. A low end lead would have its other drip campaign. A lead with no phone number but a good email address would have another drip campaign. If anybody wants any of this stuff, I give it all away for free now. I don't care. So if you have a website and you want a drip campaign, send me an email. You have all of my emails. I email you all this stuff to get you here. I'm glad to share it with anybody who wants it. But having a very effective drip campaign is really important. Short and to the point. If you're sending, I got one from an agent the other day, is gardening tips. What does that have to do with me? If I'm going to buy a house, the last thing I want to do is gardening tips. Another one was recipes. Again, what does that do? Very important stuff that is what you want. You do not have to have a lot of drip campaigns if everybody's set up in listing updates, right? You just don't need that much. And then depending on the buying time frame is the callback schedule. Again, this is a really simple overview. If you want a deeper dive into lead conversion, you can all go on my YouTube channel, which is just my name. I have so much training on my YouTube channel. It's open now to free. I don't charge for that stuff anymore. It's just free. Just go to my YouTube channel, subscribe, and I probably have 100 videos on there about all stuff. I also do a top producer panel every Thursday on the internet, which is phenomenal. It's me and I think there's usually about 8 of us. Karina back there is on our panel there. She's a rock star. And we've got my friend Pete, who's one of the top luxury agents in the country. He's on there. Matt Battiati, who is #1 EXP for 2 years in a row with $2.5 million in commissions each year. Not sales, 2.5 million commissions. Bobby Martin is a team leader, phenomenal. Craig Lurch is a team leader up in Pennsylvania, great place. They're all people, I'm the weakest link. I've sold 1,000 homes and I'm the worst one. I'm just there for comic relief. But yes.
What is that an event you hold weekly?
It's every Thursday at noon. Again, if you want, email me. Right? Here's my email. Just say it's Mitch@MitchRealty.com is my email. Yeah, it's good stuff. Yeah. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, it's my favorite thing I do. So it's Mitch@MitchRealty.com. If you email me and just say send me the link and send me the drip campaign, I'll email you all that stuff. What's that?
You can also set up for notifications on it. That's what I do.
Okay, there you go. So the other thing they said, yeah, notifications. So Thursday, this Thursday, I'm teaching a class on how to run a real estate business. We're actually closing down the panel for the day, and I'm going to take it over. And I'm running a class called How to Run a Real Estate Business. And I really dig into the difference. Again, you've heard me say this 15 times today, being proactive versus reactive, and how do you actually run a business versus being reactive. So again, send me an email. I guess you could use that one too. And I will send you the link to that, and we'll go from there. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Life, dating, real estate? Anyway, so stop at the bar and meet us. Everybody should get tickets for drinks. And feel free to ask us any questions, and we're always here to help. And thank you so much for coming today. Oh, see Erin for tickets for drinks. Thank you, Erin.